What if the voice that tells you I'm not enough is not the final judge of reality, but a habit running on autopilot? Today we'll treat that voice like a data stream we can inspect, label, and reroute, not by force, but by practical, repeatable steps. Welcome to Beyond the Mind. Today's session is a 15 to 20 minute guided practice called Reprogramming Belief Loops, Narrative Clearing Meditation. It's designed as an experiment. We will catch a recurring inner story, label it clearly, and rehearse a small, believable alternative. This isn't magic. It's a behavioral procedure informed by research on cognitive reappraisal and deliberate practice. By repeatedly interrupting automatic appraisals and practicing new responses, you weaken old reactive loops and strengthen new habits of inference and action. Before we begin, a brief orientation. Find a comfortable seated position. Sit upright but relaxed. You can close your eyes or keep a gentle soft gaze. Rest your hands where they feel steady. Keep a pen and a small notebook within reach for a short journaling step at the end. 2 quick safety notes. If you have a history of severe trauma, bipolar disorder, psychosis, or any current psychiatric instability, consult a clinician before embarking on sustained introspective practice, and consider doing shorter sessions with experienced guidance. If intense emotion arises during practice, stop, ground with the senses. Name 5 things you see, 4 you can touch, 3 you hear, and seek support if needed. Take 3 slow, deep breaths now to settle. Inhale gently through the nose. Exhale slowly through the mouth. Allow your shoulders to soften. Breathe naturally. We'll work in 4 phases. Phase 1, framing and choosing the loop, about 90 seconds. Phase 2, extended noting, catching the thought and labeling, 10 minutes. Phase 3, rehearsal and embodied alternative, 4 minutes. Phase 4, journaling and a small action plan, about 2 minutes. The total runs between 15 and 20 minutes. Begin by bringing to mind a repeating story, a short sentence your mind tends to tell that reliably shapes mood and behavior. Examples: I'm not enough, I always mess up, they won't take me seriously, I'm bad at relationships, or a concrete worry like I'll fail at the presentation. Pick one story that feels familiar but not overwhelming. If nothing specific comes to mind, choose a low-stakes example, a small habitual complaint or a recurring self-judgment you notice often. Say the sentence silently to yourself once to identify it. Allow it to be clear but not dramatized. Now orient to your body. Notice posture, points of contact, and the rhythm of breath. Let the breath be an anchor, not something to force, but something steady you can return to whenever attention drifts. Phase 2, extended noting. For the next 10 minutes, your job is simple. Whenever the chosen story or any related thought arises, label it with one brief neutral word. Use practical tags: thinking, worry, doubt, shame, planning, memory, prediction. Use the shortest helpful label you can. If bodily sensations appear along with the thought, label those too. For example, tightness, heat, restless, pressure. The label is a small practical pause that separates the raw data from the automatic narrative. Start now. Notice the story and when it shows up, name it softly: thinking, doubt. If the thought is strong, name its quality: strong doubt, old story. Keep the tone of your noting curious and non-judgmental, like a scientist making observations in the field. Each label is a data point, not a verdict. Continue noting. If you notice layers, a thought followed by an emotional surge and then planning, name the layers: thought, anger, plan. If your mind offers argument or justification, label that too: arguing, narrating. If you feel a physical reaction, find the most immediate word: tight chest, hollow stomach, shallow breath. These momentary tags help you map the chain from thought to feeling to action impulse. If you lose the thread or your attention drifts, gently return to the breath for a moment and then resume watching for the story. There is no failure in wandering, returning is the practice. Keep the labels short. Keep the curiosity steady. Notice how the story comes and goes when you treat it as an event rather than an identity. As you continue, pay attention to timing. Does the thought precede a bodily surge, or does a bodily sensation trigger the thought? Notice which direction the loop typically runs for you. Label that pattern: body triggers, thought first, memory chain. See if any small descriptive pattern emerges. If intense emotion arises, breathe into that sensation, label it, panic, grief, and soften your posture. If you feel overwhelmed, shorten the session and ground with the senses. Otherwise, keep noting. The aim is sustained, objective noticing, more data, less drama. Keep tracking for the remainder of this 10-minute phase. When you label, let the label be both precise and kind. Avoid moral language. Use practical descriptors. Worry, not failure, as a personal judgment. Now we move to phase 3, rehearsal and embodied alternative. The noting phase has created a little distance between you and the automatic loop. That gap is where change can begin. For the next 4 minutes we will practice a short, believable alternative, a counterexample or concrete action that challenges the rigid part of the story. The alternative must be plausible, not a grand fantasy, but a small, sensory scene that contradicts the most extreme claim of the loop. If your story is "I'm not enough," a believable alternative might be "I completed something useful this week and someone thanked me." If your story is "I always fail," an alternative could be "I have one example where things went better than expected." If the story is "They won't listen," the alternative could be "One person I know heard me and responded." Choose a single, specific alternative now and hold it gently. Form a short sensory image around that alternative. Picture a tiny moment, what you see, what you hear, the posture of your body, the texture of the scene. Keep it concrete: names, a place, a short exchange. Don't invent a perfect outcome. Pick a small, real or believable instance that undercuts the absolute claim of the story. Bring that image into your awareness now. Notice details, colors, sounds, temperature, a small movement. Allow the body to take in the image. Does your breath change? Does your chest soften a little? Notice those changes. Now, create a short affirmation phrase tied to this image, one line that feels plausible and supportive. Examples: "I did one useful thing," "I can try and learn," "One person heard me." Keep it concise. Repeat this phrase silently 3 times, aligning each repetition with a slow exhale. With each repetition, allow the image to become a little clearer and the bodily tone to soften. Next, imagine the very first tiny action that would follow from this alternative. Not a plan for a month, but one small step you can take in the next 24 hours. A short message to send, a 5-minute practice, a quick call, a single sentence to say in a meeting. Visualize yourself doing that one small step with ease. Observe any sensations as you imagine taking that action: a steadier breath, a slight muscle readiness, a small forward lean. Repeat the affirmation once more and tie it to the physical cue you'll use later if needed, perhaps placing your hand on your chest, tapping your thumb and forefinger, or taking one mindful breath. This small cue will be the bridge from rehearsal into real life. If doubt or resistance arises during rehearsal, label it briefly, "doubt," and return to the image. The presence of doubt is expected, it is part of the data. Now take another slow breath and let the rehearsal settle. Notice any softening, Any small difference between the posture or the tone of the body now versus 10 minutes ago. Allow yourself to hold both the old story and the alternative in awareness, noticing how they differ in vividness and bodily effect. We move to phase 4, journaling in action. Slowly open your eyes if they were closed. Reach for your notebook and write 2 concise lines. Line 1, a brief observation from the noting phase. 1 sentence about what you noticed in the loop or a pattern that emerged. For example, notice that not enough comes with tight chest and quick thinking. Line 2, 1 tiny action you will commit to in the next 24 hours that aligns with the rehearsed alternative. For example, send 1 brief message to request feedback, or practice the 1-minute pitch before the meeting. Make that action specific and doable, a single, observable next step. Write it now. After you write, take a moment to place your hand on your heart or wherever feels grounding and say the affirmation phrase silently once more with intention. A few practical suggestions for integrating this practice across days. Do a short variant each morning for 7 days, 3 minutes of noting and 1 minute of rehearsal. Keep a 1-line log. Small repetitions matter. When a triggering situation arises during the day, use your cue, the hand on the chest or a single mindful breath, to recall the rehearsal and delay automatic action by 30 to 60 seconds. Use that pause to choose the tiny action you practiced. After a week, review your log. Notice any shifts in the frequency of the story, the intensity of bodily reactions, or how often you executed the tiny action. Why this works, a concise science tie-in. Cognitive reappraisal research shows that deliberately reframing the meaning of an event reduces emotional reactivity and supports better decision-making. Rehearsal and implementation intentions make cues for action more accessible and increase follow-through. Repeated non-reactive observation, noting, increases meta-awareness and reduces automaticity. Put together, catching the loop, labeling it, and practicing a small alternative leverages both bottom-up observation and top-down rehearsal to shift predictive habits. If you'd like precise citations for these claims, I'll list them in the description and can compile DOIs on request. A few safety and ethical reminders. This practice often surfaces material that benefits from supportive context. If strong or disturbing memories arise, pause and use grounding techniques, senses checklist, and consider consulting a qualified teacher or therapist. Don't use this practice as a replacement for professional care when needed. To close, take 2 slow, grounding breaths. Notice any subtle change in body or mind, perhaps a softening in the chest, a small opening, or simply a clearer sense of the loop as an event rather than a definition. Both the noticing and the rehearsal are seeds, repeated, small acts that gradually change how the mind samples evidence and what stories it prefers. If you found this useful, try the 7-day micro-experiment I described, 3 minutes of noting and 1 minute of rehearsal each morning, plus a single tiny action daily. Keep a 1-line journal. If you'd like, share 1 concise line in the comments after a week, session time plus 1 observable change. For example, 3am, noticed less tension at lunch. I'll read a few anonymized examples in a future episode. Thank you for practicing with Beyond the Mind. If you'd like a downloadable 1-page protocol and a short list of references for the science behind this work, request protocol or references in the comments and I'll prepare them for the video notes. Sit gently. Notice kindly. Take 1 last slow breath with me now. Inhale. Exhale. Open your eyes when you are ready. References and further reading, selected. Gross, J.J., 1998. The Emerging Field of Emotion Regulation, an Integrative Review. Review of General Psychology, Tang, Y.Y., Holzel, B.K., and Posner, M.I., 2015. The Neuroscience of Mindfulness Meditation. Nature Reviews Neuroscience, Rehearsal, B.K. et al., 2011. How does mindfulness meditation work? Proposing mechanisms of action from a conceptual and neural perspective. Perspectives on Psychological Science, Gallen, J. K. et al., 2016. Implementation Intentions and Goal Achievement, a meta-analysis. Overview of Implementation Intention Effects. Lindahl, J. R. et al., 2017. The Varieties of Contemplative Experience, a mixed methods study of meditation-related challenges in Western Buddhists. PLOS 1. If you want exact DOIs and links for any of the items above, or a printable one-page protocol sheet formatted for viewers, say references please or protocol please and I'll compile them.